Hi, Winslow here, and I'm out of my performing clothes and back in the dressing room, having just played for you Moonlight Serenade, a romantic tune that remained popular for decades after its 1939 introduction by the Glenn Miller Orchestra. Your parents or your grandparents or maybe great-grandparents may have slow danced to it in satin ball gown and tuxedo on a warm summer night in a lakeside pavilion or maybe a crowded ballroom. Now, I was able to match the lush harmonies while playing the melody by using a certain harmonica with an unusual tuning. And you may be familiar with the Bushman or JDR Game Changer or Trochilus. It's a 10-hole harmonica, like a diatonic. It's got a slide, like a chromatic harmonica, and no valves. It comes in a variety of tunings with different comb colors, and this yellowish-orange color indicates tuning like a chromatic harmonica in what's known as solo tuning. But they make a variant, and when I first made this recording, the only variant in this tuning available was the C sixth, right? Key of C, whoops, other side, but with the sixth tuning. Now, they've recently made it available in several different keys. What's the difference between regular tuning and sixth tuning? Well, let me play the first four blow notes in a standard tuned Trochilus Game Changer solo tuned harmonica. C, E, G, C. C, E, and G are the notes of a C major chord, and this is a C harmonica, so it makes sense that the blow notes would form the home chord of the key. But you notice there's a C at the beginning and a C at the end. In fact, there are two C's side by side. I'll talk about that later. But what happens on the sixth is, instead of another C, we get an A. And if you count from C up to A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we discover A is a sixth note in the scale, and it adds a sixth to the chord. So we get a C major sixth chord, and we can press in the slide, and we get a semitone higher, a D flat major sixth chord. And so I'm playing this song in the key of D flat, and many of the notes in this melody rise to the main note from a semitone below, so having a slide in key makes for a really good match. Now that major sixth chord that you heard a moment ago was practically the default form of major chords during the big band era. If you heard a major chord, very likely it had that sixth added, and it creates a really sunny sound. But there's more going on. It's kind of interesting because, okay, we've got C, E, G, A, but if I just isolate A, C, and E, now I've got an A minor chord. So now I have a chord basis, sort of a home chord for playing this in A minor if I want to. And if I add back in the G, I get that silvery sounding A minor seventh chord. So what we've got is really four different chords: C major sixth, A minor, and A minor seventh, all in those four notes. It's very versatile. Now, the other thing this does is it kind of helps balance out the blow chord and the draw chords. The draw chord is also complex, and this is standard in solo tuning as well as this tuning here. See, I've got D, F, A, D minor chord, and then the added note is B, which again is the sixth of D, so I've got a D minor sixth. Right, and that's what blues harmonica players often use as their basis for playing the chromatic, is that third position D minor sixth chord. So I've got two complex chords instead of one complex chord and one simple chord. And that's the basis for this tuning. Now, when you look at Moonlight Serenade, there's a difference between the instrumental version and the vocal version. Because in the instrumental version, if you listen to the Glenn Miller recording, it goes, right? But there is a prefatory note in the vocal version. I stand. All right, press in the slide to get to that note. What just happened there? I thinned out the chord. How did I do that, and why? Well, that's a split. I've got 4 holes in my mouth, and I'm blocking the 2 middle holes out with my tongue so that I get the lowest note on the left side, the highest note on the right side. Splits can be various sizes. There's an octave split, 5 holes in my mouth, 3 blocked. 3 holes in my mouth, 1 blocked. Splits are very versatile ways of selecting the notes you want and blocking out the notes you don't want. So why didn't I want those notes in that spot? At that point, the chord changes, and the middle notes, they actually go down a semitone. Now I could have outlined fragments of the chord, but that wouldn't fit with the song. So I just stay with that split. Well, I still hear the melody note, but the chord changed. How'd that happen? Well, draw 3 and blow 4 are the same note. With the slide out, it's A and A. With the slide in, it's B flat and B flat. And the next chord is an E flat minor chord. So I've still got my melody note, and now I've got the correct chord for the backing. Now, one of the things I wanted to mention earlier is that you could play this song entirely in 4 and sometimes 3-note chords. If you were playing all by yourself, it'd sound pretty good. But when you put it with a backing track that has the correct chords, some of it doesn't fit. And so you have to find ways of making it fit by omitting what doesn't work and including what does work. So that's really what I'm going to be talking about here. So far we've got or rather, right, more of that slide out to slide in stuff. Full blow chord, slide out to in on the draw chord, out to in on the blow chord, and the next bit is just blow and draw with the slide in. Now what did I do there? I played octaves, and those are just approach notes. So I've played an octave here, slide in draw notes, slide out draw notes. Now all of those notes are part of the same chord. And here we get into the concept of broken chords. Sometimes you can play some notes of the chord, but not others, although you can play those some other way. And this could be because of hand reach on the guitar or some other reason. Here on the harmonica, you've got basically, on the slide harmonica, you've got 4 layers. You've got a blow, then a blow slide in, which is higher, then a draw slide out, which is still higher, and a draw slide in, which is the highest. In some cases, that's not true that it goes higher. Sometimes it stays the same, and on standard tuning, sometimes it goes lower, just because of the way the tuning works. But here it's pretty consistent that the note will go up when the slide goes in. So there's a really cool possibility for using all of that. Now, in this case of this chord, we've got a broken chord. We've got fragments of the chord, so the chord is broken up into the fragments that we can put one after the other. And it just happens to work with the melody. Right, those are the melody notes. I never play just the melody note by itself. It's an octave or a chord or some fragment of a chord. And then, oh, there's another one of those slide in moves. Once again, an octave to another fragment of the chord. Blow, slide in, blow, slide out, but then it moves to a chord that uses the slide in notes. This moves so beautifully and consistently in this song. And then the very end of the verse, So there I'm playing a split. Now I keep the note on the left steady, but I widen my block to reach the next melody note, which is an octave higher than the note I'm holding on to. Then I go to the full chord. Now, the notes that I played during that split are the notes that fit the chord. The ones I blocked out are the ones that didn't. So you can see how by using the slide, which happens to work really well when you play in the slide in blow key of this harmonica, that all this stuff works really well. When I wrote this arrangement, or came up with it, however you want to call it, the C6 was the only sixth tuning available. The original Moonlight Serenade is in the key of F. I would have needed an E6 harmonica to play it in that key, and they still don't make one of those. They don't make a key of E at all in any of the Trochilus / Game Changer models. But it sounded pretty nice with the lushness of the chords and all of the ability to maneuver through the melody with all of those semitone rises, and always playing something that was more than just a single note, and very often a harmony. And it was nice to be able to balance the octaves with the harmonies that then raised. It just worked out so perfectly. If someone is interested, and if enough people are interested in a transcription with tab and notation, maybe I'll come up with that. But it's some work, and I'm not going to just do that on the fly. Now, there's another part to this, if you're willing to stick around and listen to it. And some of you may already be saying my head's already exploding, which is fine. And for something like this, it might be well to take it in small sips and kind of comprehend a bit and then move along, rather than just saying, oh, I can't deal with this. And trust me, I've had many of those moments myself, but I always come back and take little sips. For those who've stuck around this long, you might be interested to know what I did when I wrote the introduction for this song, which you heard at the beginning. It's got nothing to do with the song itself. In fact, I started with chords that were as far away as possible from the key, then worked it around until I arrived at a chord that would lead into the song. And a major concept that I used for this purpose is that of the slash chord. Now, I've talked about broken chords. The slash chord you will often see written on sheet music, especially chord charts, as something like F/C. And what that means is you've got an F chord, and then after the slash, you've got a C bass note. Or it could be C over F. For instance, if I put this C major sixth chord on this harmonica over an F, there's an F bass. Right? I get a chord that can be described as an F major ninth chord. Whatever it is, it sounds pretty cool, and it's not obvious in the harmonica because you can't put F with those blow notes. F is either a slide-in blow note or a slide-out draw note. Those are all slide-out blow notes. So that's a pretty important concept when you want to expand the range of chords and harmonies that you can tease out of this little instrument. Now, the song is in the key of D flat. And I started on a B major seventh chord. And, right, very pretty chord. Now, right, I've got G sharp, F sharp, A sharp as slide-in draw notes. B is a slide-out draw note. I can't play them together, but if I go, I have to be careful to get rid of that slide-in C that really makes the chord sound pretty awful. But so what happened there? Well, I played the B major seventh, and actually I snuck in on the recorded version. I moved to the left, let out the slide, and played the B as a way of playing a broken chord. but really it functions mostly as a slash chord. But then what I did was I went down to the 5th of B, and I played the slide-in blow chord, and I get an F sharp major 9th. Now, if you look at a major key, you get major 7th or 9th chords on the 4th degree of the scale, the 4 chord, and the 1 chord. So really, we're going 4 to 1. And then what do I do after that? Okay, it sounds like we're almost in the key of F sharp, but then I let the slide run. Ooh, all of a sudden everything's tilted. I've got an F major 9th chord with F in the bass with a C major 6th on top of it, okay? Or I could say A minor 7th over F, either one would work. But then what happens? Now I'm playing the B minor 7th chord, which is the blow chord with a slide in, right? It can be D flat major 6th or a B flat minor 7th, but I'm putting B flat in the bass. So it doesn't really count as a slash chord because the note in the chord is already there in the part, in the instrument or the hand that's playing the actual chord. There's the note I'm looking for. Now what I did there was I used a pivot note. And I went from the blow slide in chord, which is the B flat minor chord, and I emphasized that fact with the B flat note in the bass. But then what I did was I went into the slide out draw chord where that F also lives. Now that's our D minor 6th, but if I put a G under it, it becomes a G 9th chord, right? So we've got that. Right? Another really cool sounding shift, but it's unified by that pivot note. There's the same note in both chords, and it's emphasized to say, here's the steady bit while everything else changes. But now, we slide out, right, on the draw. I put slide in, raise the G to an A flat, and A flat is the 5 chord of D flat, which is our key. Etc. And we're into the song. So what I'm really talking about here in a large part is the fact that you can make the chords and partial chords that are built into the harmonica much more versatile if you look at what other chords could those possibly be a part of that isn't in the chord itself. And that's where your slash chord idea comes in. And there are ways of kind of consistently finding slash chords that work, but there are also experiments, right? If you've got an instrument where you can play a bass note while you play a harmonica chord, like I've been doing, you might find a lot of cool things. Anyway, I'm Winslow. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you next time.